what's for me? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast was so amazing describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to discover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are also sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your entire bill. Code CPPod at darkfusionsystems.com. Make sure the podcast below. Let's go to our feature presentation. We had this band on the podcast last in December of 2021. We're in February of 2025, and they're coming back. It is the pop-punk outfit from New Jersey, All Systems Go. They have a brand new EP called Finding Closure, which comes out on February 19th. We only talk about what has happened to the band since the end of 2021, but the absolute roller coaster of positivity, loss, grief, and coming together that has happened in those past couple of years, along with how the EP Finding Closure not only shows the closure to that time period, but also closure to many other things in life that are happening even before all of this went down. You guys ready for a great episode? You better be. Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. We have been doing this podcast here for about 6 years now. Yeah, that's a hell of a long time. 6 years, getting close to 600 episodes at this point. There have been plenty of bands that have come on the podcast. Some you know very well, some you might not know, and some that you should definitely know. The band we have here today last appeared on the podcast, I just checked it, December 9th, 2021. That was over 3 years ago. And if you've been on the podcast for, you know I love bringing people back to get you know who these guys are once again, catch you up with them, and see what kind of great new music they have coming out. This band right here is a brand new EP called Finding Closure coming out on February 19th. So if you like pop punk, you like New Jersey, you like all that fun stuff, this is the band for you. So please welcome the guys from All Systems Go, Matt, Devin, Dick, and Joe to the Chord Progression Podcast. So gentlemen, welcome back.
Hey.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Thanks for being on, guys, once again. It's been a long time. It's been over 3 years. So how is it going? It's been a while.
A lot has happened, to be honest. Yeah. It's been quite an eventful 3 years. I mean, we've played a lot of shows, which we're so happy to. We've had, some trials, tribulations, triumphs, and we're all better for it over the past couple of years. That's for sure.
December 2021. That was I remember we talked about Sunset the last time. So Devin got married.
Oh yeah. There we go. Yeah, I wrote that song for my proposal, and now I'm married. Don't look at that.
Wedding was lit. Riley's dad gave us bourbon.
The question is, how much of that wedding do you actually remember?
Yeah. No. Joe's also gotten married since then.
Yep.
That's another thing.
We got half the band.
Mm-hmm. And we picked up Dick over here, as you guys may see now.
As Dick just waves, says, hello.
Hello.
So we've got Dick who joined the band. We've got Joe and Devin now hitched. So half the band is hitched, married. If they can remember their weddings or not, we don't know. And then we got Matt still just plugging away, having a great time. All systems go, baby.
He's married to the music.
Oh, yeah.
Married to the music, married to the money, married to anything. Just doesn't have a wife yet.
Money, I don't know about that yet.
We're getting there.
We got another decade in us maybe before we can get there,
Nah. Maybe another 3 years and another podcast appearance beyond that. Then we'll be talking some serious cash.
We'll see.
Hopefully. So just kind of hearing what Devin just said about the last 3 years, you've been playing a lot of shows, you've been through a lot. Can you give me a recap and everybody else a recap of what really has happened with All Systems Go over the past 3 years? Because I know you guys have definitely been through some things, some highs, some lows, some trials, some tribulations. I just want to get everybody on level with All Systems Go so they know everything that's been going on with you guys, what's all happened, so that not only can we connect with you guys, connect with your story a lot more, connect with the journey, but then really dive into finding closure when it comes out and really understand everything that there is to understand about it.
Sure. So December 2021, at that point, our single Don't Let Me Go wasn't out yet. It was coming out like a few weeks later. So we started 2022 with that. Throughout the front half of the year, I actually had to get a surgical procedure done. So we took off from playing shows for a couple months. And then late February and then April, we finished recording our album, Nonfiction. It was the first 3 singles, including Sunset, Don't Let Me Go, and Homecoming, plus 5 more songs. And we worked with Nick from Man Overboard on all those. Summer, we played a bunch of shows, 2022. And then we put our album out in the fall. Played a bunch of shows after that. And I feel like from there, like from the album drop in October, we started noticing more and more people coming out to shows. And I feel like from there, momentum picked up going into 2023. Like we started off playing like lit basement shows. We did our first tour. Like we went up to Boston, Connecticut, had a lit NYC show that like packed the room out, which like that was the biggest show that we played up there. Spring 2023, we played the Stone Pony in New Jersey, which if you're not familiar with that, that's the venue that Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi both came up in when they were both local artists. That show was the biggest show that we played by far. Like I think it sold like 400 something tickets.
It was awesome.
Yeah, and every show that we played between like the last time we were on the podcast has just been and like now has been like awesome. And then I feel like we were really picking up steam. And then suddenly in 2023, in July, our bassist Dean passed away. And then from there, we kind of had to take a break from doing the whole music thing, kind of like regroup a little bit. Luckily, we've been friends with Dick for a couple years now, like inside and outside the music scene. So like finding another bass player, like asking him was an easy first choice for us. And then from there, we worked... we dropped our song The Lowdown, which we actually worked on with Dean before his passing. That was the last track that he was on in the band. We dropped that in fall 2023. And then since then, we've kind of been just like on this new chapter of our band, like trying to play as much as we did when we were like kind of at our peak and trying to like get that, like keep that like momentum going. And then we recently were in the studio this past July working on this EP, Finding Closure, with Gary. He plays in a hardcore band called Crime and Stereo.
I'll say that from a synopsis of the last 3 years, I mean, that's a pretty roller coaster of a synopsis where it seemed like a lot of things were picking up steam. You guys are playing a lot of shows, getting a lot more notoriety, especially in like the northeastern part of the United States, going and playing in places like New York and Boston, being able to expand that footprint that was All Systems Go and become one of those bands where when you were going out, you were expecting to sell tickets, starting to get into the hundreds and maybe at sometimes, if the momentum kept going, getting closer to the thousands. With the unfortunate passing of Dean, and with how close you guys were to him, of course, as bandmates, as friends, essentially family too, that's never an easy thing to go through. And taking that step back for you guys selves to not only grieve through that, but also work through that and be able to support each other through whatever was going on at that point in time within your own selves and within the band as well. In the end, it probably is going to be the most important thing you guys ever did to make sure that this cohesion that All Systems Go is still stays. The vision of it is still going forward, and you guys still all stay friends with also helping out each other, helping out each other's families, just go through this whole time, helping out Dean's family go through this as well, because potentially pushing right through that to try and keep that momentum going, you never know exactly what might happen, and a lot of those feelings at times, I've seen this happen with other bands and with other people as well, when you ignore feelings of something like that, they can come up later on, you bottle them up, and then it turns out to be something that never gets resolved and affects you later down the line. At this point in time, with everything that you've done, you've not only helped yourselves heal through this and help yourselves carry on the memory of Dean through your music, but also are able to continue to go forward with this and now have Dick in the band who is going to be able to help you guys out, but also close enough to band where it's like, hey, it's like adding somebody that we've known for our whole entire lives right back into this and keeping this momentum going or trying to pick back up where we left off.
Yeah, and honestly, that's like just a major component of the Finding Closure EP that we have coming out. It's just a big thing to us is just not letting your emotions get bottled up and just knowing that you have people that are around you that love you and you can always talk to them. And it's just very important that you find your closure some way, somehow, be it through others or something you love greatly, you know.
Yeah, it was definitely tough, but we all kind of were on the same page. We knew like, okay, we need to take a step back and take some time we actually, like, the day we all found out, we spent like the second half of that day all together, which was really nice to just kind of, just having each other's presence was great. Dick was actually one of the first people. Dick was messaging like all of us all the way through, like asking us what we needed and asking us how we were doing, which was great. And even though everybody kept asking us like, oh, like this is going to find its way into the music, right? Like we all were on the same page, like maybe, but not anytime soon. Like we need to take this time to, even like a few months after, I remember, like it took a month or two to start practicing and playing again, like practicing for the first time after that, which was like 2 or 3 months after we lost Dean was tough, So we took our time and we took the time we needed to, but that was important that we did.
Taking the time for anything is important, no matter if it's a big decision in your life or if it's, going through grief, especially going through it together. And being able to be there for each other throughout that whole entire thing not only makes you guys stronger as, as friends, as brothers in a band, as family throughout this whole entire thing. But when people are asking, is this going to come into the music? Eventually, I feel like, the answer is always going to be yes, but you never know when, because music is that artistic expression. It's that expression of feeling that you're going through. And with it being such an emotional time and calling it finding closure too absolutely stands, very strong with that, because there's a lot of people that go through stuff like this with losing a loved one, losing a friend, losing a family member. And if they bottle it up, it kind of just stays there and it never leaves, because you never really process or you never find that closure through it that allows you to, basically put that grief to the side and get past it. I'm not going to say just push that, but I say get past it so that you can continue going forward, still promoting the memory of the person that you lost while being able to continue to go forward with your life and not have the absolute shock and grief of that loss affect you. But shout out to you, Dick, though, for constantly, helping the guys out, messaging if they need anything, checking in on them, basically becoming an external support system for them for that time, so that when it came time to find another bass player, you, of course, were at the top of the list, because not only did your talent still fit what was going on in the band, but also you were essentially becoming part of that family and helping through a very difficult process, a very difficult time, not only in your guys' life, but the band's life as a whole. So, dude, shout out to you for going through that and putting in the effort to make sure that these guys had that support from, at that point, an external source.
Thanks, man. I mean, I think in general, especially like I'm a mental health professional, actually. So like this kind of stuff is like important to me, and like supporting people and everything like that. Like I try to be like someone that, I might not always be around, right? But somebody calls me in the middle of the night, needs to talk, needs me to come pick them up, whatever the case may be. I just try to like, provide that. And like being close to Dean as well, it's like, obviously I'm not really as close as the other guys, but to some extent it's just like, oh, this is a big thing that just happened. Like, I got to check up on everybody. And basically everyone we're friends with was just, it was a hard time, and everyone was just reaching out to each other, like, meeting up, whatever the case may be, just trying to make sure, the guys kind of heal and, have people to talk to, ways to distract themselves, that kind of thing.
Yeah, honestly, the whole music community like came together and supported us, which was really nice to see. Like, not that we would ever doubt. We have great people that we've played shows with. Always the best people in music, but they really like went above and beyond to support us through all of it.
But doesn't that just also stand to the fact that not only the positive impact that you guys have had on other people's lives in the music scene as well, but the impact that Dean had on their lives? Because
definitely,
if there's going to be a whole entire music scene, a whole entire community of people that are coming out to support you guys through this, help you guys through this, and stand behind you as the band continues to return, come back, continue to grow, to try and recapture the momentum that you had in 2023, it stands to the reason that it's, that support is there, that belief in there, and the integrity of you guys that had come before it was absolutely present and positively impacting people's lives, whether it was you guys just going to shows, connecting with people, you just being there in your daily lives, or being up on stage, creating those moments that people don't forget, or the moments that people look forward to every single minute of every single day, because it's the most important thing they're going to do that week, that month, or that year. Again, it just shows the positive impact that All Systems Go has had in all facets of life. It's just so many different people in the music scene over there in the Northeast.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just like it's unbelievable that the amount of friends that we've made, just not even like knowing them and being able to develop relationships. And the first time I'm seeing them face to face, we can hug and like, it's amazing the level that musicians will go to for their community.
It's incredible. And even going through, the brand new EP again, Finding Closure, coming out on February 19th, it seems like a lot of the things that had happened around that time, not only with unfortunate Dean's passing, but also the response from the external music community, and then the emotions that you guys were feeling around this whole entire moment, really encapsulates all 4 songs that are here from beginning to end, because you guys sent me the music. I went through the whole entire thing, and I've got like 6-7 pages of notes written down on this stuff. So I'm ready to dive into this EP as deeply as possible as we can. So when it came to writing this EP, when it came to creating it, what was that overall experience like? And what was the overall mindset behind creating these 4 songs?
Okay. I think the mindset behind creating the 4 songs is, where do we pick up where Nonfiction basically left off? Because, like, just as an example, Everything Going Well, the situation that song's about is from 3 years ago, before we finished Nonfiction. And that was the first song that was basically like being written. I think actually Devin had a bunch of like Crabman written like instrumentally, but like we just had bits and pieces of everything just like in different places. So like the first part of this is like, okay, what comes after like Nonfiction? What comes after the Lowdown? Like, what do we want All Systems Go to sound like? I feel like this process, before we hit the studio with Gary, we were kind of like stressing about it, because we're so used to having like our entire record like demoed out and stuff before we go into the studio, and a lot of this was finishing at the last second and like finishing it up in the studio. But I feel like that actually made it like a little bit better, like experience better, because I felt like we were just like, because we still had like work to do, we were kind of like more in the zone, it seemed like.
Yeah, especially that entire first night, we were up late, just hours trying to write lyrics. I made them all watch My Name is Earl, so that they could, get an idea of what I was trying to picture when I was laying out the foundation for the song and everything. So it was also just a great bonding experience this go around, especially like, this was Dick's first time in the studio, and he'll be able to tell you more about that than I will. So.
Yeah, Dick, we got to get you here. And what was that like, that first time in the studio working with these guys and being in there, potentially being forced to watch My Name is Earl and getting into the whole entire lore that is that show?
God, My Name is Earl, man. No, I liked it. I've seen it before, but it's like one of those things where it's like you see it as an adult and then you kind of like remember it and understand it a little bit more. But like moving past that to studio time, brother, it was hard. Like I've said it before, I'll say it again. It was probably one of the hardest things I've like honestly done in my life. Like legitimately, it's like working with Gary. He's got like a lot of like great knowledge about how things should sound, how like the bass should sound, how the song should sound. Everything like that, and it's very specific. He's very specific, very intentional with the way he changes parts, the way he like messes with the composition, the different things he does, right? So by virtue of that, it's going to be a lot harder if you're practicing for, ever like playing it one way, and then he's just like, oh, well, now you're going to play it a completely different way. But it sounds 10 times better. Yeah, and you got to try and get it perfect. It's just like, it's I had a rough go there. I mean, I'm happy with how everything turned out, but man, it was difficult, man. It really was.
But if you don't have someone pushing that onto you, or like pushing you like that in the studio, then that's where that apathy can come in, that like laziness come in. It's like, oh, it's good enough. Especially when you're trying to write music and it's your first time in the studio, first time writing with these guys. You all want to make sure you're on the same page. You all want to make sure that everything is a cohesive unit, is going to be put into these songs, put in these tracks, especially if they've been written previously or been worked on previously, like you talked out with Crabman and like you talked about with everything going well. So bringing Dick in and having him, work with this and try and create this in the studio, man, I got to give you some props for just going through that and just, basically getting essentially the shit kicked out of you for that, but coming through the other end, not only with a brand new experience, but also with a new outlook on not only the creation process, but what it means to fully be in a band and create music in this way.
Oh no, for sure. It gives like a lot of, like, I feel like for all of us, it was kind of a learning experience on how to like be cohesive, because like the way I play completely different from how Dean played, right? Like, don't get me wrong, Dean taught me a lot of what I know, right? But like there's still a lot of like different things, and like stylistically I don't really play like him. So trying to like find that middle ground of like serving the songs, serving the band, like all that kind of stuff, while also like kind of maintaining like my own like kind of style, was something that like took time with. And I feel like like working on the EP was like a big step to being cohesive as a band, and kind of like seeing what each other like, seeing what we don't like, seeing like our own different like views on like, oh, this song needs this, oh well, I think this song needs that, whatever the case may be. And like it's a kind of finding that middle ground and learning how to like work with each other, and how to work with Gary, at least on my end. Like, just kind of a lot of figuring things out. But I feel like we made a lot of good steps through the process, and I feel like we're just getting better every week, every day at playing together, at playing live, at writing, everything else.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, I knew the rest of us had worked with Gary before, and I knew what to expect going in, and we still wiped a bunch of the drum parts that I came in with, put new stuff in there, and he still had a bunch of ideas that we went with, and figuring stuff out in the studio. So it's, it's even coming back, knowing what to expect. It's still difficult. It's still hard. So Dick even had an extra challenge from the rest of us. But it was, again, all serves the better of to better the music, right? And we're really happy with what we got out of it.
Or else serve the better the music. It absolutely has to, because like Dick said, he plays, was taught by Dean, learned a lot of things from Dean, but doesn't play in that similar manner. So when it comes to creating music, especially in the studio, there's going to be those differences that come forward. And it all gels into how the band's going to work together as a cohesive unit, as a four-piece, with the four of you guys going forward. Because you could have just gone on and played the same old songs you always had, not really change anything up, and bringing someone in to play bass essentially could have been like a hired gun where, we're just kind of playing, we're just having a good time with this. But you're just playing the part. You're not actively kind of in the creation process of it from that regard. But now with having Dick in and having him in the creation process, it shows where these songs can go, but also shows more of the chemistry of where this band can really go in the future. And if that chemistry isn't built up and that chemistry is not there, then that momentum from 2023 is not going to be recaptured, or the momentum is not going to be able to continue on going forward. So not only was it an important time for you guys to do that, create these songs, get them tracked, get them recorded, and learn how to work with each other, but to, most importantly, build up on that chemistry of the four of you so we know what happens with All Systems Go going forward.
Oh, yeah. Right. We treat this like a family. Like this is a passion project. This is something more than just plugging in an instrument, going on stage, playing music. It's not that. It's our livelihood. Like, this is what we believe in. This is what since we came out the womb, this is what we wanted to do. So this is what we're doing, and we want to do it the right way with the people we love.
Been doing this for 8 years, and our only previous members, like, I know some bands go through like a lot of different members. Our only two other previous members were like friends that we went to high school with and like have known since we were kids too. So like, this is definitely more of we're family here, like Dev said.
Yeah. All Systems Go is like the Olive Garden. When you're in it, you're family.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
I'm expecting some sort of like Olive Garden theme merge that says All Systems Go. When you're here,
Oh my
you're
God.
family.
Done deal. Done deal.
Devin, make it happen.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
gosh.
So we were in the studio. Gary's really big on like getting like the specialty item from like local like food places and stuff. And one of the days Devin came in with like Olive Garden to go. Like he went
I got shit on so hard. He was like, I understand getting Olive Garden, but like as an Italian, that already offends me. But you got Olive Garden to go, and I just got ripped apart because I guess part of it is you go there for the breadsticks and all that stuff, but sometimes you got to take your losses.
You deserve it.
If you guys end up making an Olive Garden All Systems Go shirt, please send him one and see what his response is.
Done.
he'll know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I kind of feel like I have to give you guys a challenge on this because there have been a number of times on this podcast where I have talked with artists and we've come up with some of the greatest like merch ideas or greatest on-stage ideas I could ever possibly think of. And I'm like, no one has ever used these. So either these ideas are really bad or they just get forgotten about. And I'm very kind of like, feel a little miffed that they haven't happened yet. And I'm like, I'm kind of expecting if someone's going to be able to pull this off, it would be you guys.
I think
Yeah,
Devin's
it'd be
taking a
perfect.
note
We
on his
could-
phone right now.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna do like this color shirt,
There
and
we
it's
go.
gonna have the All Systems Go, and
Yeah.
then like on the back, maybe it'll say like when you're here, your fam, you know. It's
You
perfect.
could make like a green like outline of Spanky instead of the leaf or whatever's there, the branch.
There you go.
olive
There you
branch.
go.
Oh,
And-
right on it.
It's
And what you could do even beyond that is before going to a show or something, stop at Olive Garden, just quickly get something to eat, but stock up on all the free breadsticks, take them to go and throw them out during the show.
done.
Oh
You
my
know, or
gosh.
I'll just stand outside of like Olive Garden hawking shirts. Done.
Ooh.
Or you go to Olive Garden and become friends with one of the wait staff, become friends with someone in the kitchen, and set up so that every time you're playing a show, you can just like meet them in the back and they just give you like 100 breadsticks all cooked, ready to go. You just got to throw them out.
Or I infiltrate Olive Garden, become the CEO, take it over, become a billionaire, quit the band, and just live my life happily.
Could you really live your life happily being the CEO of Olive Garden, though?
I don't think so. Being the
All
CEO of
breadsticks I
any.
want.
I'd be
Billions of
disappointed
dollars.
personally.
Extortion. So be
The-
it.
The true unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks is now in my possession.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, if you guys make that shirt, please, I'll say this. Don't send me one. Send me the link to where I can purchase one so I can support the band in this endeavor. That's going to make me make this thing even more of like a challenge is if you make this, because I will, don't send me one. I will buy one, but I need to see it happen. All you have to do is send me a picture, send me the link, and I'll take it from there.
We're due for merch.
We are due for merch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, it would be, I'll post it online. So it'd be like, this is the first time like an actual idea became into fruition. I'm so happy.
We got you. Devin's got you. He's gonna do it.
Yeah, Devin's got me on this one.
Yeah.
This
Oh, yeah.
the future CEO of Olive Garden has us on this one.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right,
Free
that's it.
breadsticks for all.
All right, that gives me a great idea on how to close this podcast out when we get to that point. But diving back into the EP, diving back into finding closure, especially you talked about already writing Crabman, writing everything going well before this full EP was a thing. Even looking through what you guys had sent me about these songs and really diving deep into them, it definitely shows more of that feeling of like these songs are already about bringing some sort of closure to something that's even maybe grander than you would possibly think. Then what but the song maybe kind of shines a light on like, hey, Crabman, what like that song every time when I first saw it, I'm like, are we doing like a crab chord type thing? Am I going to be in the pit now going like this? And then everything going well is a bad thing. Or I'm like, this sounds like a 2000s like potential metalcore song title. Like maybe the jet ski investments weren't such a great idea. But when you look at the song and you really dive deep into the meaning, they really both speak to closure in a completely different way, along with the other songs you have in your Empty Hearts and Open Regrets, along with Survivor's Guilt as well. So when it came to the ideas behind these songs, where'd they really come? And I want to start out with Crabman because we already talked about My Name is Earl on it. So I got to hear, how did that whole entire connection come through on this one?
Honestly, it's just like a direct relation to how I want to live my life is just you do good things come upon you. I've always believed that, and that's the message. And my name is Earl, and it's one of my favorite TV shows. So I wanted to combine the two things into a metaphor for like my outlook and personal beliefs on how one can make themselves feel good about their lives and themselves, like in a positive aspect of just how can I be a better person, you know?
Mm.
I think it's a good way to put it too, and also relating it back to, one of your favorite TV shows of all time, because we think about it, it's also a reflection of life and discovering that it's much better, like you said, to put good out into the world instead of being apathetic about the world and being so negative and putting that kind of energy out there. Because karma does kind of have that, theme in here. What you put out is what you get back. And if you're putting out positive, you get back positivity. If you put out negativity, you get back negativity. But in the grander scheme of things and finding closure, this is how I kind of looked at it too. It's also about realizing that we're not perfect. We're humans. We all make mistakes. But the more positivity that we try and put out in the world, the more positivity will come back to us in return. What's the point in living life negatively when you could live it so much more upbeat and happy and creating a world around you that you actually want to be a part of, instead of a world that's constantly, bringing you down because you're creating it around you?
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better, honestly.
Oh, I was all prepared for it too, because again, thinking about karma, thinking about how this all comes into play, and then especially coming from like more of like a pop punk stance in terms of how the melody got played on this song to the overall creation of it in that aspect, it does give off this feeling of internal self-reflection, but also creating more of this positive, upbeat attitude towards it. Because if you're able to understand that you're not perfect, you've made mistakes in the past, you don't have to necessarily like, okay, I've got to, do everything I can to become the best person possible. Just do what you can to put out positivity in the world and actually create that positivity around you. When people listen to pop punk music, it's, sometimes the themes can be dark. Sometimes the themes can be really personal, but at the same time, you listen to those beats, you listen to the grooves and everything, and they always elicit a positive mental response at some point in time. So if you're putting out that positivity in the world in one way or another, it's going to create a better space around you.
No, yeah. You're absolutely correct. The music like totally matches the meaning of the lyrics and the vibe of the song, which I thought came together really well.
Yeah, just like especially in the verses, that fast, snappier pop punk drum pattern that you definitely use, Joe. It hits with such a great snapness there, lower chugging the guitar, the flow of it just fits that build to the chorus. Just to have that powerful piece of, we're building up to this, we're getting better. This is actually, we're putting out that positivity there. And then this is where I believe the greatness of the song comes in, because it's how Matt's vocals also work within this. I got to give Matt some flowers on this one, because in the verses, the vocals, they have a little bit of a lower tone to them, and it kind of brings forward a kind of a feeling of like, if you think of like Pierre from Simple Plan, it allows that reflective tone to really get into you, to look inside and be like, again, I made mistakes in life. I may have not done some great things in the past, but if I try and put on more positivity in the world, more positivity can come back and things are going to get better. But you got to have that internal reflection. So then when the chorus hits, it gets to be more of that upbeat tone. It's a little bit more mature, but that's a mature realization when you realize that you're not perfect, but you can still do great things in the world and not let your past dictate what the present is.
Appreciate the compliment on the vocal, but I will say, and Dev, you probably remember this too, I'm actually singing the higher harmony just in the chorus on this song, but that just might be a testament to the fact that a lot of people think me and Dev sound the same when we sing.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
that's been a thing. That's been a thing for like years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, shoot, it's definitely still a thing here though, because I thought of it.
Just blends so well together.
Oh, it absolutely does. And for opening up an EP with a song like that, it absolutely stands out, makes sense. I do want to go to everything going well is a bad thing, right? Because that one also has another great idea behind, bringing closure to the whole entire idea of this EP, but also with the mindset and the thematics as well. So when it came to writing this song and really its influences, where did that all come from?
So, like I said before, there was a situation that happened like 3 years ago. So when when writing for the EP, I kind of like dug back first, and the line about "Remember me when you're famous," that one was in my lyric book, and that kind of stuck out. And it was like this whole like situation is one of those things where it's like at the time I had a long period of time where I like couldn't get over the whole thing, and I'm like, this is one of those situations where like I have to like put this into the band's discography, like otherwise like I'll be able to like feel better about the whole thing. Basically, I dated somebody for a few months who got cold feet, and the way that the cold feet manifested itself, like this person basically like 180 like the way that we kind of interacted. It was one of those things where like for the longest time, the whole thing was like almost like straight out of a movie, and it seemed like we were on the same page. But like in the very end, like there was a whole moment of like, oh, like relationship, that's where you thought this was going, and that kind of hit like a brick. And then when it ended, that also hurt. And then when I found out that she had kind of moved on like pretty soon after, like all of that basically hurt. And then part of that too was because I was kind of introduced to her through mutual friends, and because of that ending, I feel like our friendship for a little bit kind of took a back seat to their friendship with her. So introduce a whole new friend group for a few months, and then all of a sudden all of that goes away too. So this song is basically about like taking the like the romantic lyrics of the first like couple lines of the chorus and then just 180ing them, essentially kind of reflecting how that whole thing went. And in the verses, it's pretty much kind of just like a whole like looking back at things that like, oh, maybe I didn't catch those things about her the first time, I guess.
See, I can kind of understand that too, and also it's just by doing that reflective piece, it does bring closure to a relationship or a situation where it's, you know, you question maybe if you missed those things, or you know there are signs that you didn't see, or maybe there was communication that could have been better. Because I mean, it reminds me of a thing I went through in 2022 where everything seemed to be going all right, everything seemed to be going okay, and then I catch the girl that I was with at the time. She decided to leave the bar with another guy right in front of me.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that was fun. Doing much better now in that department. Been dating this girl for a little bit, almost a year now, a little over a year now by the time this comes out. So woohoo! Awesome. But it does, like, it spoke to that idea of like being able to look back. Oh, Dick's going crazy over there, going woo. So now we're feeling better about this.
Love.
But it speaks to the fact of like if things are going well, and you don't really recognize, or you don't have that communication, you just want to stay in like, oh, I just want to stay in the positive and just stay in the good times and do that. You're not actually taking a look at the things that are going to be the backbone of any kind of relationship. You're not going to be building on that communication. You're not going to be able to create those moments where you actually start to build the building blocks that are going to become a great relationship, whether it's going through some issues, going through some problems, or just having those different ideas of where you are in life, talking about them and seeing, you know, is this something we want to build up and continue on? And if it doesn't work out, well, at least you had that conversation of having the total 180. But when you have that total 180, it allows you to take a step back and reflect and, you know, say, you know, maybe we missed these things, but by understanding that we missed some things, we can put that in the past so there's no lingering feelings of, you know, what did I miss out on? Or what if you're kind of leaving a situation that you never really were fully, in the end, fully into in the past, and bringing it to a close so it doesn't affect future relationships.
Exactly. I feel like too, like you mentioned, like kind of staying positive and in the moment thing. After the whole thing ended, I got a lot of advice from like various friends, like a lot of good advice, but also a lot of like kind of like bitter sounding advice to where it's like, oh, you have to be on your guard from the beginning, and you have to like how it says in the second verse, like you watch every goddamn word in our conversation. It's like I have friends that kind of have that kind of outlook on like relationships and dating and stuff, and I feel like if you kind of like lean too much into that, I feel like that takes a lot of the fun out of that.
Oh, it definitely does take a lot of the fun out of that for sure if you lean into the negativity. And I know where people come with that negativity. It's because they've been scorned in the past and they don't want to go through it again, and they don't maybe they didn't even, you know, rectify it themselves as well, so they don't want to have to go through those feelings or reflect on those feelings from the past. But if you're not actually open to those situations, and going back to, hey, Crabman, if you're kind of being guarded, you're not always putting out like some sort of like positivity towards it, you're going to end up creating those spaces where those negativity points can come in, and you're just going to end up reliving the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, it was like, idiocracy or just like lunacy is like doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you're constantly on your guard and you're constantly, staying apathetic or aloof to the situation, you're never gonna be able to build up on that connection. You're like, oh, why isn't this happening for me? Well, you're not allowing it. You're not bringing that energy to the whole entire fold. You're not bringing that mindset to the fold. So yeah.
Mm.
Kind of
definitely.
I was like, just kind of the one way I looked at. But there is one song I really, really, really want to go into. I want to make sure I don't miss out. It is the last song on the EP, Survivor's Guilt, because out of all the 4 songs, this is the one that, when listening through it, this is the one that stood out to me the most. So when it came to writing this song, I know it wasn't an easy one. What was that like?
Well, the lyrics themselves, like I had like 3 different sets of lyrics. I didn't even start really writing and like about Dean until like maybe a little bit after. Like I didn't just dive in right away. Like, I need to get this out, kind of thing. Like obviously, like we said, we took our time and stuff and took a break from like anything music for a little bit. But if I included everything that I wrote about Dean's passing like in the song would probably be like 9 or 10 minutes long, and it would be like that middle verse where it just keeps going and going and going and going. Like, this song too, I also kind of like realized there's 2 ways that I tend to write lyrics. One of them is like the way that Springsteen writes lyrics, where it's like the first verse starts a story, the chorus is about the whole thing, the second verse continues the story, the bridge continues the story, and it's like chronological. Or that's like one way, or the other way is like writing how you feel and just like spreading that across the whole song. So with this song, I tried to write about the last time that I saw Dean. Last time that me and Deb saw Dean was July 12th, like a week beforehand. And starting from there and like trying to tell a story that way, like got the whole song done, try to pair it with the instrumental we had, because that was done first, and it was just like, this is dog shit. It has to go back. Like it just feels like too forced, I guess. And at one point it was like I had scrapped more sets of lyrics and we had this instrumental basically done. And it was just like, you know what? Just write how you feel, just see what comes out. And then all of a sudden, boom, entire song. Just essentially like talking about different points of like just grief. And we all experience grief like differently too. I don't want to put Dev on the spot here, but he had lyrics too for it that I didn't like really like include, because I feel like both of us, like in the months following with Dean, I feel like we both processed grief a little differently, and it didn't really like line up, I guess. Too. But a lot of stuff's in there, like the song itself talks about the last time we saw Dean, talks about the funeral, talks about how we felt after, and like interacting with people, going back to shows, and then having people be like, oh, you're the one dude from All Systems Go, like I'm sorry for your loss. And then like just the feeling of having to hear that like over and over again, like a lot of that part of it went into that song.
Yeah, I give Matt a lot of credit too for like every time I sat down and tried to put lyrics together for that topic, I just couldn't, So Matt was the brave one that went through and went through all that, and reprocessed all that to get it into a song. And I think he put, even though it was like he said, his perspective of going through that process versus other, like all of ours, it was, I think, a good representation of like he put it really well, I think, in the lyrics of that song.
I mean, when I was going through it, again, that was the song that stood out the most to me for this, and I think a lot of it was the lyrical, inclusion of this and the lyrical content behind it. Because I loved how in the story and the overall creation of it, you didn't pull any punches on how you process through grief and process through this entire thing on a personal note, because it is what makes a song the most powerful piece that it is. The reason I say is because there's a lot of times with songs when people go through things, they're trying to, connect the dots, everything. They come up with metaphors. They come up with different ideas to really explain these ideas, not to, try and restrict the actual thing that happened, but to allow the audience to connect a little bit more. But by not pulling punches, it created a tangible explanation for those who have lost someone that they've cared about in a similar fashion, and how they dealt with the grief of thinking, maybe they didn't do enough to help the person out at the time, and having to put themselves through that. It's something that many of us need to hear and understand. And when something like this happens, you did a good move by not pulling any punches lyrically. By going forward with that, we connect with the story just based on the fact that, you know, maybe we had someone else in life that maybe had some we gone through a similar experience, and it's never a good experience to go through. But if we have that tangible explanation of like, now we have this idea of, we can listen to this song, we can go through this and actually feel that once again. Now we can understand ourselves a little bit more, understand our own situation a little bit more, and bring closure to that, while you guys are bringing closure to your feelings on this and the grief that it caused just through this song and just through your music. I would have loved to have heard the 9-minute version too, just because that middle verse, it could have been 4 minutes long, but it's just, at times, you know, I understand the song, it might not be, you know, the best thing to have a 4-minute long verse. It's not like, you know, an instrumental Dream Theater song that can go 26 minutes long and everyone's going to be fully into it every step of the way. But it may have been a cool thing to listen to, just because now as you're seeing just your mind scramble to go through the grief and going through and process, go through it together, and all the different moments where people are reaching out. You go to shows, people are reaching out, and all these different aspects that just bring back those moments, bring back those memories. And then that final piece of it where it's like, you know, Dean's still with you guys. And you guys are still going forward as all systems go, as this 4-piece that is incredibly strong, incredibly powerful together. And you guys wouldn't be able to do it if you haven't gone through, you know, something like this together. If that makes sense.
No, definitely. We'll get back to you with the long version. No, just kidding. We probably won't. But
No.
I wanted to say too. Shout out to Gary. He was awesome. You know, we talked about how he gives us really great critiques about the songs. He listened to this one and he said, "This is your letter to Dean." So we're not going to change this one. Like there was one little tiny suggestion he made that we took. What was a good suggestion. And besides that, we kept that pretty much as is from the demo. And to have a producer who, first of all, understood that and like was with us with that. He was at the funeral. Like he came to Dean's funeral and spent some time with us there, which was really awesome. And just a testament to him and his character. So like he also allowed us to get that song out in Matt's original way, which was really, really, really awesome.
Yeah, he said like when we first played it, he was like, if like just from a producer standpoint, this song has too many words, the structure is all jumbled, like there's stuff that doesn't need to be in here, the hook is only in here twice or whatever. And he said like all this, he's like, but the message is important and I don't want to touch this. The thing that was cut was just that guitar lick in the middle that's like there was like a breakdown at the very end that had that in it that used that as like thematic. But he said with that, as soon as the message is over, the song is over. So cut it there. And then I feel like that made the song like way, way better.
Oh yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad that he was able to, you know, go through and say like, okay, like song-wise, producer-wise, these are a lot of things I would change, but it definitely would take away from the message of the song. And the message of the song is what needs to be important here. It is your letter to Dean. And it is something that you would not want to change up in that regard, because it is something that you can perform every single show. It's something you can always listen to and always connect with Dean in every facet of your being just by listening to it and just by being a part of it. And sometimes, you know, the message is a lot more important than the structure of a song. So that message is what connects with people a lot more. There's the greatest songs in the world. That's you know, their beats hit or some hits, but the biggest songs were the ones that people think about the most, or the ones that people have like, you know, the most fond memories of, the ones that people dance to at their weddings with their spouses. Those are the ones because the meaning behind them and the message behind them is the strongest point.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So you guys definitely did a great job on this one. So again, everybody, the brand new EP from All Systems Go, Finding Closure, comes out on February 19th. But guys, we are coming to a close in this episode, and I have one last question I want to ask you guys. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Sure.
Bring it.
So I've been asking this question about a year and a half now to almost every band I can think of, and I'm going to make sure it goes to you guys. It is a way for us to get to know more great new music and a way for you guys to get to promote the music that you love. So there are 4 of you. I'm going to ask you for one each. So it's going to be tough, but it's one each. Can you guys name me each a band or artist that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
Ooh.
I have one.
Go for it.
Immediately. Cheap Sex. I don't know if I can say that on here, but I did.
Fuck yeah, you can. You kidding me?
What's it called? Yeah, so the band Cheap Sex, it's like a really like punky, like hardcore sound, like very just fast and like political and raw and just like it's just like every song is just like driving the whole time. I mean, it's just like to me what punk should sound like as a genre, just like fast, driving, heavy, just screaming your heart out. Like it's just such a great band, and I wish more people would get into them.
I'll say it's a good pick. All right, Matt, seems like you're up.
I would like to see them not drop back down to 200 monthly listeners and instead go like up to 1 million. I think more, especially in the like heavy like metal scene, more people need to be into Counterparts. Like one of my favorite bands that I've gotten into in the past few years, like they're like they combine like metalcore and hardcore, and it's just like their lyrics. Like Brendan is such like a genius when it comes to like the lyrical content on their albums and stuff. And Jesse, their guitarist, is like the way that he writes breakdowns and riffs and just like it's just like the perfect blend of everything. And like I feel like a lot of their fan base feels the same way. I wish they were bigger.
Well, I mean, that surprise EP they dropped at the end of 2024 that came out of nowhere, that was quite the treat.
I thought it was better than the Knock Loose album, if I'm being honest.
I got to go the other route on that one. I like the Knock Loose album more, but I'm not discrediting Counterparts in that one. I just thought that Knock Loose one was the absolute shit.
It was still great.
All right, we got 2 more left. What we got?
Okay.
Good, Joe.
Okay, I was between 2, but I think I've decided. But of course, I'm going to pick a band that has no drummer. I'm going to go with Punch Brothers, which is all like it's like violin, violin, guitar, upright bass, mandolin, and banjo, right? And vocals. And the fact that first of all, it's just, as a music nerd, like they do some really cool genre bending and just like musical cool songwriting things. Also great lyrics, and somehow with no drummer they like jam harder than a lot of bands do, and I just love listening to them. And from that perspective too, you know, as a drummer, to be like, wow, these guys are like grooving with no drummer in the background, which I respect a lot, you know.
Damn, that's another good pick. All right, we got one more. I'm ready for
so
it.
I'm already rocking like 2 bands over here, but I'm gonna give a shout out to Ditz because we've known them for probably like 6-7 years now, and they're like the best band in New Jersey. They put out some of my favorite music. They're always in my top listens and everything. So Ditz, DITZ.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't misspell it. Don't forget the Z. It's Ditz, baby.
Bug rock.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I want to thank you once again for rejoining the Chord Progression Podcast coming on today. And I'm going to close out this episode with 3 things. First things first, when it comes to All Systems Go and when it comes to the brand new EP, Fighting Closure, again, coming out on February 19th, you're going to want to be in the know with all this stuff. Keep in touch with them because they'll be coming to a city near you at some point in time in the future, whether it's a year, 2 years, you never know, but they'll be doing it. So go script to the podcast where it says find All Systems Go online link symbols for everything you're going to be down there. So go and follow them. Keep in touch with them. Do not miss out on them. Now it's time for number 2. So guys, when I first had you in the podcast, as we close it out, I said, when I get to see you perform live for the first time, first round's on me. I have not seen you perform live yet, but that offer is still in place. However, this is the second time I've been on the podcast, so now I got to add to it. I normally would do first 2 rounds are on me, but I got a better idea. First round on me still rings true. But, guys, we go to Olive Garden.
Yeah, let's go.
Unlimited breadsticks, soup, and salad. And we could just drink our faces off with
I'll
some
say
wine.
you guys make it out to a show here in Milwaukee. You guys play out here. We go to Olive Garden before the show. We getting all the unlimited soup, salad, breadsticks. We getting some kind of, pasta dish or something, whatever it might be. But we are packing up our full garbage bags of breadsticks. We're taking them down to the venue. We're going to be throwing them out to people during the show.
There we go.
Or the venue is going to be the Olive Garden.
Yeah, just pull a Denny's.
Oh my gosh.
What
Gary
the fuck
will be
is
mad, but
up,
that's okay.
Olive Garden? This song is called Unlimited Soup, Salad, Breadsticks, bitch.
Oh my god.
Joe uses breadsticks for drums.
Well, I mean, you could just literally stick a drumstick in the breadstick, and you could just be drumming with them, and no one will be the wiser.
Gosh.
Take a bite.
Joe, you have to do that. You have to do that.
You have to.
Steal breadsticks.
I totally would. It's the perfect full circle for the shirts.
Perfect full circle for the shirts, and that's what we got to see. All right, guys, now it's time for number 3. As we bring this to conclusion, I cannot end this by saying goodbye. That is way too final because we got to go to Olive Garden. I got to pay up on that first round at me. And, hey, next time we have you on the podcast, let's not have it be a little bit over 3 years. Let's cut down that time, all right?
Word up.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. So this is not goodbye, my friends. This is I'll see you later.
See you later. Thank you.
Well, folks, in my interview with the guys from All Systems Go, we had Matt, Devin, Dick, and Joe. And now it's time for Kevin's final thought. And I knew this one wasn't going to be as wacky, ridiculous, crazy as the first one was, given the fact that Finding Closure, especially the last song, Survivor's Guilt, dealt with Dale's passing and the band really working through that. It's something that I definitely wanted to, talk about just because it is such a huge, important piece, not only for the band, but at the same time, we look back and we think about it. It's not an easy thing to go through, and seeing how it all kind of played into the music at the exact same time to help the band grieve, help the band come together, and help the band heal from this while moving on from that grief, while also continuing to pay tribute to the memory of Dale and keeping him and his influence forever in our minds and forever in their hearts. It's something that is a beautiful thing because a lot of us have experienced loss in life as well, whether it's loss of a loved one, family member, friend, whatever it might be, bandmate. It could be anybody that's close to you. And it's not an easy thing to go through. And what I'm glad what the guys did was they went through that period together. They grieved together and they were able to get through it together. We need to have that support there when we're going through it. Even if you're someone that likes to be alone or if you don't have someone that's there was always someone that you possibly can reach out to that will be there. Whether it's even in a professional setting or it's just, a close family, close friend. Could be a family member that you haven't spoken to in a while. And if something like that happens, that's where family comes in. That's where the love comes in. People are willing to help when you need it. So just remember that. I want to thank the boys for coming to the podcast today. When it comes to All Systems Go, please go stream the podcast below. Links for everything to find them on social media, where you can stream music, where you can find them on tour, and listen, of course, to the Finding Closure EP when it comes out on February 19th. Please hit subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast right down here on YouTube. You get the follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the like button on these episodes to help push us in the algorithm. Follow the Chord Progression Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Links to the podcast below. And I want to thank you guys once again. Thank the boys from All Systems Go for coming to the podcast and being open about this stuff. Also, I want that Olive Garden t-shirt to be a thing. Let's make it happen. On that note, that's good today, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. So I'm still big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!